Trust Matters: Leadership for Successful Schools by Megan Tashawn Moran. The main ideas of this book is building trust. Building trust is crucial to school improvement. Principals need to be intentional and strategic about building trust among teachers, students, and families. I chose this book because I like the way this book provided enough theory to help us understand how trust works, along with lots of practical, specific examples of how trust building and breaking occurs in real schools. I was also impressed and a bit surprised by how strongly research confirms the importance of trust in student performance, teacher retention, and other crucial elements of school success. In addition, schools going through seismic changes right now, new teacher evaluations, new standards, new tests, and new technology. Trust is the glue that will help educators successfully navigate these changes together. If you haven't put energy into building and improving trust at your school, this is the time to do it.
All right, okay. Give me a boost, and I'll pull you up.
Give us the satchel first.
What? I can't believe that after all we've been through together, you don't trust me? Ouch.
Now help us out, pretty boy.
Sorry. My hands are full.
Chapter 1: Why Trust Matters. This chapter shows why building trust is essential for principals. Tashawn Moran explains that trust is the lubricant that makes school improvement go smoothly and quickly. Trying to improve a school without trust is like trying to start a car without oil. Everything gets stuck in place. If they lack trust in their leaders, teachers will spend most of their energy trying to protect themselves, not on improving their teaching or their school. In contrast, in schools with high levels of trust, teachers are motivated and willing to try new strategies because they trust leaders to support them. Students are motivated and connected to the school because they trust their teachers. And families are supportive because the principal and teachers have built trusting relationships with them. The book in chapter 1 starts off with 3 school principles and talks about 3 different various ways in which trust affected each of those principles. Meet Gloria, Fred, and Brenda, 3 principals who share a school district, but not much else. Gloria is a new principal, eager to help her students achieve great results. Unfortunately, she has not given much thought to building trust with teachers, and her shape up and ship out attitude has mired the school in conflict. Morale is low, the union has filed multiple grievances, and meetings have become battlegrounds. Although Gloria entered the school with ambitious goals, the students have not made much progress. Gloria's urgency and patience are not enough to turn around a failing school. Then there's Fred, a much more experienced principal. Well-liked and easygoing, Fred can be relied on to provide a sympathetic air, but not much else. He dislikes conflict, so he doesn't help teachers or parents resolve disagreements. Not wanting to disappoint one side or another, he avoids making decisions. Conflicts escalate and interfere with opportunities to make progress. Fred doesn't do such a good job turning around his school. Then there is Brenda, the 3rd principal. She succeeds where Gloria and Fred have failed. Her student performance is above state average despite several risk factors, and teacher morale is high. Why, you ask? Brenda balances high expectations with high levels of trustworthy support by sharing responsibility for school improvement, modeling a hard work, caring, and responsible attitude, helping teachers and families with problems. She never shames them for having problems, and planning community building events like an annual fall sleepover at this school. So the author continues to talk about why trust matters within the school, and it's backed by tons and tons of research, some of which are her own actually. So in chapter 2, defining trust, she talks about the 5 facets of trust. And those facets begin with benevolence, which is sometimes called caring, goodwill, or wanting the best for everyone. Brenda, the principal of the high trust school described in Chapter 1, she's considerate of teachers, she protects their rights, she celebrates their successes, and helps them through problems. The second and third facet, honest and openness respectively, are 2 other important qualities that teachers look for in principals. A principal who tells the truth, asks for feedback, collaborates on decisions, and is quick to admit mistakes will find that teachers are usually open with her, too. They are more likely to seek out her feedback on instruction and to let her know about the small problems before they grow. And the 4th facet is reliability. To be trusted, a principal needs to be reliable, to arrive on time, to keep promises, and be consistent. No one is perfect, and principals are often overburdened, but being generally reliable goes a long way towards ensuring the same quality from teachers. And the last facet of trust that Tushan Moran talks about is competence. Being good at one's job. Just as we expect teachers to know how to teach their subjects, teachers expect principals to know about instruction, leadership, and school management. So we move into Chapter 3, where she really focuses on what initial trust is. And particularly, she starts off by talking about understanding initial trust is really setting up your own personal disposition to trust. She suggests that a principal who wants to build a trusting school should have a trusting attitude and believe in the good intentions of teachers, parents, and students. She also talks about the reputation. For example, Brenda's school, experienced teachers told newcomers that Brenda sometimes lost her temper, but was generally an excellent principal. In contrast, at Gloria's school, stories about her confrontational style spread quickly. Because humans have a negative bias, we are much more likely to remember and share stories about people acting badly than about them acting well. This is why it's important for principals to be careful about the messages they may be sending, even with seemingly minor actions. And the last piece she talks about is sharing similar values with the faculty and the adults that you work with. It is helpful for principals to take the initiative to trust the teachers. Teachers do share their general values. All right, these are the do's and don'ts. It's interesting how she dives really deep into it. We could just look at that real quick because I'm already running out of time. Chapter 4 is betrayal. She talks about 2 types of betrayal. There's the structural and personal piece, which is really based on systems. So for instance, the easiest way to describe this is a teacher may notice that some teachers are often in violation of the school's lateness policies. Of course, there's no consequences, or that there is no system in place for resolving issues between teachers. This results in the betrayal, which damages the trust in the school's structures. So if that could be easily solved by having a sign-in system where everyone is being treated fair and equitable. And the second kind of betrayal is when it happens publicly, when someone is publicly humiliated, criticized, blamed, or insulted. She dives in again and drills down into the consequences of betrayal. There are 3 types of consequences to betrayal. One is the hampered communication. Second one is decreased shared decision making, and third, which I think is quite obvious, is the decline in teacher commitment. To minimize the betrayals at the school, she recommends that you must realize that you can't control other people's decisions, and that it is possible to create an environment that minimizes the chances of betrayal. To do that, you need to create a system that is fair, equitable, and that you build your relationships with teachers, hold them to high standards, and always try to remain to be tactful and, of course, caring. Chapter 5 talks about the revenge piece. Once you've really upset that adult in your classroom, in your school, well, then what? So the response to betrayal, it usually begins with an initial shock. People have a range of reactions. Some will withdraw from the school. Some will step back. Some will confront the perpetrator. Some people will actually even forgive. There's the culture of control piece, which is talks about. Oops, hold on a second. The culture of control piece it's characterized by the top-down decision making and the micromanagement piece. We really have to strive to work with the shared responsibility and making sure that everyone has a say in the decision making process. Tashawn Moran talks about a culture of professionalism. For example, in her school, the way she created this culture of professionalism is by keeping with 3 simple rules. This is a safe place, this is a caring place, and this is a learning place. Chapter 6 talks about teachers trusting one another. And she talks about how trust between teachers forms, which refers back to chapter 1 when we look at the 5 facets of trust. And then she talks about, well, what happens when you do gain their trust. The payoffs of faculty trust are increased productivity, teacher collaborations. You see a lot more involvement in PLCs. There's an increased sense of efficacy, and there's also a constructive conflict resolution. So chapter 7 talks about cultivating trust with students. We look at different trust levels within the classroom, within the community, also what it looks like. So for example, trust levels, classroom in the community, it's high trust. And when you have a classroom of control where the teacher is taking full responsibility and not empowering the students, there's low trust. Classroom of community works on relationship building, whereas the classroom of control is based on extrinsic rewards and punishments. And we see that every day in school now. So as you can see, she starts off with talking about in chapter 6, the cultivating trust with the teachers. Chapter 7 is the cultivating trust with the students. She talks about the different types. And then what's really wonderful about this book is that she gives action steps and specific strategies on how to cultivate that trust with each constituency. So in chapter 8, she talks about building bridges of trust with families, the last constituency she refers to as far as the community is concerned. And she argues that trust is crucial to building sustained and productive connections between families and school. She shows a plethora of research which shows that trusting relationships between schools and families certainly impacts school achievement. This chapter also describes how school leaders and faculty members can build trust with families, even in the most difficult and challenging situations. Chapter 9 was really powerful. It talks about, well, what happens if you already did break the trust? What are the steps that you do to restore the broken trust? And she pretty much focuses on the 4 A's of absolution throughout the chapter, and she really breaks it down. And the first thing that she recommends that any adult do, whether it's at home or even in the workplace, is first admit that you broke the trust, admit to the fault. Second, apologize. Third, ask for forgiveness. And fourth, in the end, the most important is make an effort to amend your ways. And the last chapter is becoming a trustworthy leader. She talks about construct a shared vision, making sure that you model trustworthy behavior on a daily basis, be consistent, make sure you provide coaching, don't just preach, get in there into the classroom and actually model those coaching and teaching learning strategies, manage the environment, and lastly, mediate the breakdowns of trust. When you see this confrontation amongst faculty members, get involved. Do not let it blow over. Have that difficult conversation. So in the end, this was an absolutely wonderful book. I thought it was powerful. It's interesting because at first when I got into administration, one of the things that I feared were those difficult conversation. But with anything else, the more practice that you have, the more difficult conversations I continue to have, the more tactful I'm becoming. I'm being more conscientious of the words and my word choice in those difficult conversations. But in the end, I can see that if I address the issue, regardless of what the issue is, sooner than later, the results end up being much more positive than if they were just to let go and foster. So that's my presentation. See you in class this weekend.